Welcome to the TKD Coach H. Sheza podcast, the podcast about Taekwondo from Lemgo. Today we're embarking on a deep dive into a question many of you have likely pondered, especially if you're involved in martial arts or just curious about personal safety. Is Taekwondo truly suitable for self-defense, particularly on the street? It's a question that really cuts to the core of what martial arts are meant to provide, isn't it?
It absolutely is a critical question, yeah. And one that consistently sparks a lot of, passionate discussion within the martial arts community globally. For this deep dive, we've gathered extensive insights from various sources, including comprehensive online research and numerous press reports. We really wanted to give you a multifaceted look at what makes Taekwondo unique, where its inherent strengths lie, and also where its potential weaknesses emerge when we start talking about real-world self-defense situations. We'll be meticulously unpacking the different facets of Taekwondo, from its celebrated Olympic sport orientation to its profound traditional roots. And we'll even explore how other martial arts have historically influenced its self-defense aspects, kind of shaping it into what we see today.
Okay, let's unpack this then. Our mission today is to go beyond, the spectacular high-flying kicks and the regulated competition rings, to truly understand Taekwondo's practical application for personal safety in unpredictable environments. We'll carefully examine the compelling arguments both for and against its effectiveness in a street scenario. We'll delve into specialized systems specifically designed to bridge any perceived gaps, and even trace some truly fascinating historical connections that show how Taekwondo has continually adapted over time. By the end of this deep dive, you'll walk away with a much clearer, more nuanced picture of what Taekwondo authentically offers in a self-defense scenario, hopefully empowering you with some informed insights.
The core question, Taekwondo in the street. An initial look?
Right. So when you hear Taekwondo, what immediately springs to mind? For most people, it's probably those incredibly fast, powerful, and often, high-flying kicks, isn't it? It's widely recognized as an Olympic sport, known for its full-contact competition, where KOs or knockouts are not uncommon, even with all the extensive protective gear competitors wear. But here's the big pressing question that our sources address directly. Is this dynamic Korean martial art, with its very distinctive emphasis, is it actually suitable for practical self-defense on the street? Where there are no rules, no referees, and definitely no protective padding.
That's precisely the central dilemma our sources really confront. And what's particularly striking and frankly quite challenging to the common perception is the initial assessment from one of our key sources, a guy named Martin from lllu.de. He suggests that traditional Taekwondo, especially as it's primarily practiced in its sport-oriented form, is, and I quote, poorly suited for self-defense. Now, that's a strong statement, isn't it? It immediately prompts us to dig deeper, especially given the art's undeniably powerful techniques. The core issue, as highlighted by Martin and corroborated by other accounts, isn't really the power of the techniques themselves, but rather the fundamental nature of real-life conflicts. See, unlike the meticulously controlled and, let's face it, predictable environment of a sparring ring, street confrontations are almost inherently chaotic, unpredictable, and often brutally abrupt. Their dynamics frequently diverge significantly from what Taekwondo practitioners are accustomed to in their regulated training, and that creates a critical disconnect.
Yeah, here's where it gets really interesting and maybe a bit sobering for those of us who appreciate the elegance of Taekwondo. Our sources consistently tell us that actual street fights, especially unprovoked assaults, almost always initiate and develop in extremely close quarters. We're talking about situations where there's immediate aggressive punching, maybe grabbing, definitely grappling. Kicking, Taekwondo's signature defining move, simply isn't the primary action, or often even a feasible one, in such tight, unexpected proximity. So if you're a Taekwondo practitioner who is trained predominantly for sport, relying solely on your sport-specific skills and expecting the distance needed for those spectacular kicks, you might find yourself in completely new, unfamiliar, and frankly disadvantageous scenarios, quite unable to play to your inherent strengths. The sudden, unexpected proximity and the immediate shift to hand-to-hand or grappling exchanges can severely limit the utility of Taekwondo's long-range, often elaborate kicking repertoire. Now, this isn't to say the kicks lack potency, absolutely not. Indeed, our sources indicate they can generate force up to 3 times stronger than punches due to the massive leg musculature involved. But their practical applicability in tight, unpredictable spaces becomes a major constraint.
Precisely. And to elaborate on that point, imagine the precarious position of being on one leg during the execution of a high kick in a chaotic environment. You're inherently unstable, right? Your balance is compromised, and you simply cannot easily evade, pivot, or move quickly. This makes you incredibly vulnerable to being knocked off balance, pushed, or swiftly taken to the ground. The necessary distance to effectively execute those powerful, dynamic Taekwondo kicks is very rarely available. Or it can be instantly closed in the tight, unexpected situations that characteristically define street encounters. This raises a crucial question for practitioners and instructors alike. How does a martial arts system renowned for its long-range athletic techniques and emphasis on standing combat? How does it adapt to the brutal, chaotic, and often ground-based reality of close-range confrontations? The sources emphatically emphasize that kicks, despite their raw, immense power, are statistically high-risk techniques in a real fight. They carry a significant chance of slipping on an uneven surface, losing balance, or being swiftly taken to the ground. Which is a scenario, unfortunately, many sport-focused Taekwondo practitioners are not adequately trained to handle or recover from. The prevalent emphasis on high, sometimes flashy kicks in competition, where rigid rules create specific, safe distances and a controlled environment, often leaves practitioners critically unprepared for the messy, unpredictable reality of a surprise attack where such luxuries simply don't exist.
The training dilemma: sport versus street realities.
Okay, so if we accept that street fights are predominantly close-range affairs, involving a lot of punching and grappling, what does standard Taekwondo training actually focus on when it comes to self-defense? Our sources reveal that Hosinsul, which translates to self-defense, is indeed a recognized and integral part of the traditional Taekwondo curriculum. It stands alongside other core elements like forms or pumse, basic techniques or given yunsup, one-step sparring or henbyen kyurugi, free sparring or jayu kyurugi, competition training, and breaking tests or kyokba. These curricula commonly mention practicing against a single opponent or even multiple attackers, and learning escapes from common grabs, chokes, and even defenses against armed attacks. So on the surface, this indicates an inherent awareness within the art that self-defense is a necessary component, not just an afterthought to the athletic competitive side.
Right. But this brings us to a really pivotal and often debated point. How is this critical self-defense element, Hosinsul, actually taught in practice? And perhaps more importantly, how realistic is that training? One of our sources, Martin from ililu.de again, offers a particularly pointed critique. He argues that the way these self-defense techniques are often practiced is, well, highly unrealistic, and in his words has nothing to do with modern self-defense training. He critiques the common sight in instructional videos and many club settings where attackers conveniently freeze after an initial grab or strike, patiently allowing the defender to execute a complex series of multiple movements, or where there's questionable distance management with strikes initiated from too far away to have any real effect. This fundamental lack of realism means that while students might diligently learn the steps or the choreography of a technique, they often don't experience the unpredictable resistance, the sudden changes in aggression, or the sheer adrenaline-fueled chaos of a real attacker. To illustrate the distinction, if a partner always reacts predictably, you learn a sequence, right? But if they resist, feint, or move unexpectedly, then you learn to adapt and actually fight. The NWTU, which is the North Rhine-Westphalia Taekwondo Union, a significant regional governing body in Germany, they formally define self-defense as involving the defense against attacks with hand, foot, or weapons, encompassing strikes, kicks, levers, and throws, with a focus on proportionality according to legal statutes. However, the practical application and the intensity of these principles in standard Taekwondo training can unfortunately be problematic if the scenarios aren't authentic. It can lead to a serious disconnect between theory and street effectiveness.
That makes perfect sense. I mean, no real attacker is going to just stand there patiently and wait for you to execute a perfectly choreographed defense. It just doesn't happen. And it's not just the issue of static partners or the impractical distance management. Our sources consistently point out that while Taekwondo is globally famous for its powerful kicks, dot competition rules actually explicitly forbid Faustschläge, which translates to powerful fist punches to the head, as well as forbidding grappling and wrestling techniques. This is a critical divergence, isn't it?
Absolutely critical.
So a Taekwondo fighter, despite having learned to hit hard with their hands for breaking tests, developing significant power and focus, rarely practices realistic, full-force hand strikes against a moving, resisting opponent, especially to the head. This is simply because it's not part of their competition training, which often consumes the majority of their practice time. This creates a significant, undeniable gap in their defensive repertoire. Because hand strikes and grappling are, as our sources emphatically highlight, absolutely central to real-world confrontations, often occurring alongside the very real threat of weapons.
And if we connect this to the bigger picture, it really highlights a fundamental and, you could argue, unavoidable divergence in objectives. the Versportlichung, or what we might call the sportification of Taekwondo, particularly its strong orientation and evolution towards the Olympic Games, has perhaps inadvertently led to the widespread neglect or downplaying of realistic self-defense training in many, many clubs. This is explicitly mentioned by the SAC Karlsruhe source we looked at. This means that while athletes might excel within the highly regulated, rule-bound environment of competition, demonstrating incredible athleticism and precise technique, they often lack the specific, realistic, and adaptable training needed for an unregimented street fight. In such a scenario, punches, grabs, and grappling are central, and the potential for a weapon attack is a constant, unmitigated threat. The core objectives of competitive sport and self-defense fundamentally differ, don't they?
Completely different worlds.
Right. Sport is about winning within a set of predefined rules and limitations. Self-defense is solely about survival, often without any rules. This critical divergence has led to many otherwise excellent Taekwondo practitioners being unprepared for common street scenarios. Things like immediately dealing with a close-range attack, being grabbed and pulled into a clinch, or finding themselves taken to the ground, all of which are common realities outside the controlled environment of the dojang.
What speaks for Taekwondo as self-defense? Bridging the gap.
Okay, this analysis certainly paints a somewhat, grim picture for Taekwondo's immediate street credibility if viewed only through the lens of pure sport training, doesn't it? However, it's crucial to remember that this isn't the whole story, not by a long shot. Our deep dive also uncovers and highlights significant inherent advantages that Taekwondo practitioners naturally develop. Advantages that are undeniably crucial for self-defense, provided they are properly understood and adapted. So, in your analysis of the sources, what stands out to you as Taekwondo's core strengths? What truly speaks for its potential in a self-defense context?
Well, what's genuinely fascinating here is that even the most critical sources, those pointing out the sportification's drawbacks, they readily acknowledge that Taekwondo practitioners, especially those at a high level, cultivate immense kicking and striking power. This isn't just a casual observation, it's a recognition of the sheer kinetic force they can generate. It's measurable. Alongside this physical prowess, they also develop a profoundly strong mindset. This mindset is forged through rigorous, full-contact training and competitive sparring. These two attributes, explosive power and psychological fortitude, are undeniably decisive advantages in any self-defense situation or street fight, no question. So it's not about lacking power, it's about how these raw abilities, including a deep intuitive understanding of timing, distance, and explosive movement, are channeled and adapted for a chaotic, unpredictable environment. The sheer power generated by leg musculature, which, as you mentioned, can be up to 3 times that of a punch, means that when a kick does land effectively, it can be devastatingly effective. This inherent, potent power, combined with the mental resilience and fortitude developed through competitive training, where knockouts happen despite protective gear, gives Taekwondo practitioners a formidable base. They are accustomed to absorbing impacts, pushing through discomfort, and maintaining focus under pressure. And those are all critical psychological advantages in a real confrontation where fear and panic can be absolutely debilitating for an untrained individual.
Right, so the core strength is definitely there. It's about translating that inherent power and that competitive, resilient mindset into practical, real-world application. Our sources consistently mention Hosinsul, or self-defense, as a foundational element of traditional Taekwondo, emphasizing that it meticulously trains not only physical capacities, but also crucial mental capacities. Things like recognizing threats, reacting appropriately, de-escalating if possible. This holistic approach is really key. Take the Taekwondo SSC Karlsruhe, for instance, mentioned in our sources. They explicitly highlight that realistic self-defense is a core focus for them, actively and deliberately counteracting the sportification trend seen elsewhere. They specifically teach defenses against a wide range of attacks, including close-range attacks, managing multiple attackers, and even ground defense. Those are areas often neglected in purely sport Taekwondo. And crucially, they also integrate vital pre-combat steps like cultivating a confident, assertive appearance and mastering de-escalation techniques, recognizing that avoiding a physical confrontation is always the best defense, always. And here's a truly innovative and proactive point. To explicitly bridge the identified gap in grappling, which is so prevalent in street fights, they even offer free judo training to their members. Now that demonstrates an incredibly pragmatic and comprehensive approach to self-defense, doesn't it?
It really does.
Acknowledging that a real fight rarely stays at the optimal kicking distance and very often ends up on the ground.
Exactly. And the Just Taekwondo EV source further reinforces this commitment to practical self-defense. They state their strong emphasis on it and recognize that a primary fundamental motivation for many new students joining a martial arts club is often the very desire to effectively defend themselves. It's a core need for many people. They delve deeper into the alarming societal trend of increasing physical assaults, especially among youth, and stress the profound importance of self-assertion, early conflict recognition, and timely escape as absolutely vital components of self-defense. It's not just focusing on the physical techniques. This holistic view acknowledges that avoiding a fight entirely is invariably the most effective self-defense strategy. However, if physical engagement becomes unavoidable, they train for it with intense realism. For example, they utilize police and military-grade body armor during training sessions. This allows students to practice full-force techniques realistically against resisting partners without causing injury. They even employ color marking knives in their drills for authentic, high-stakes weapon defense scenarios, simulating the consequences of being cut. Yeah, this level of realistic scenario-based training goes far beyond typical competitive sparring or choreographed drills. It directly addresses the shortcomings identified by other sources. It ensures that students are not merely learning techniques in a vacuum, but are applying them under simulated stress and with immediate, albeit safe, feedback, preparing them for the chaotic and often terrifying reality of a genuine confrontation. This proactive adaptation shows Taekwondo's immense potential to be a truly comprehensive self-defense art when clubs commit to a broader, reality-based curriculum that extends far beyond just the competition rules.
That's incredibly intense and highly practical training. It really sounds like the quality and focus of self-defense training within Taekwondo can indeed vary quite dramatically from club to club, depending almost entirely on their specific philosophies and priorities. Some clubs clearly recognizing the self-defense gap created by the sport's heavy competition focus, actively and deliberately work to fill it, teaching and integrating techniques like arm levers, low kicks, and throws, all things forbidden in regulated competition. This adaptability within the Taekwondo community itself is a powerful testament to its inherent potential, I think.
And this naturally leads us to consider a fascinating historical question. If traditional Taekwondo itself, particularly in its journey towards becoming a sport, occasionally exhibited areas where it wasn't as strong for immediate street defense, how did it evolve in terms of its close quarters techniques? And what other systems might have influenced it, particularly in crucial areas like joint locks, throws, and grappling elements that are absolutely paramount in close quarters confrontations? The answer, as our deep dive reveals, lies in Taekwondo's rich, interwoven historical tapestry and the pragmatic exchanges that have occurred between different martial arts traditions over time.
The historical connection Hapkido and Taekwondo.
Let's indeed take that historical detour now, because our deep dive uncovered a truly fascinating and I think often overlooked connection between Taekwondo and another distinct Korean martial art, Hapkido. We often hear about Taekwondo's general historical roots, but this specific story provides a crucial piece of the self-defense puzzle, especially concerning the integration of grappling and more intricate close-quarter techniques that are so vital for real-world scenarios. It's a story of influence and adaptation that really speaks volumes about martial arts evolution.
Building on that point, Hapkido, which is a comprehensive Korean self-defense martial art formally developed around the mid-20th century. It indeed shares a significant, if somewhat complex, historical lineage with Taekwondo. Its diverse self-defense techniques partly trace back to the venerable Japanese art of Daido Ryu Aikijujutsu. This connection comes primarily through a pivotal figure named Hosinsul. He was a Korean student who spent years studying under Sogaku Takeda, a renowned master of Daido Ryu in Japan. Hosinsul later returned to Korea and is widely considered the founder of Hapkido, bringing these sophisticated joint locks, throws, and submission techniques with him. Interestingly, Hapkido didn't remain static. It later dynamically integrated techniques from other indigenous Korean martial arts, including the ancient kicking art of Taekyon, which is also seen as a significant philosophical and technical predecessor to Taekwondo. This indicates a rich, early intertwining of these martial lineages. It demonstrates how different martial traditions, even across national borders and cultural divides, informed and mutually enriched each other, contributing to a broader and more effective understanding of combat and self-defense.
So what we're seeing here is not just a shared ancestry, but a foundational connection through a dynamic exchange of techniques and influences that actually predated the formal establishment of both Hapkido and Taekwondo as the distinct arts we recognize today. But what's truly compelling and perhaps pivotal is the direct, documented influence Hapkido had on Taekwondo, particularly concerning the practical application of self-defense. Our sources describe a significant, almost legendary encounter that took place in 1972 in Toronto, Canada. This was a direct meeting between Chung Ki-tae, who was not only a respected Hapkido master, but importantly had also achieved a first dan in Taekwondo as early as 1955.
Right, so he knew both arts.
Exactly. His counterpart in this encounter was Choi Ham-hee, a towering and influential figure in the development of Taekwondo, often revered as one of its pioneering founders who had emigrated to Toronto. The story itself is quite dramatic and deeply illustrative of the pragmatic spirit of martial arts.
Yeah, this narrative raises a crucial question about how knowledge and practical efficacy truly flow and are exchanged between martial arts, often through unexpected and informal interactions rather than just formal instruction, right? Choi Hong-hae, seeking to establish Toronto as an exclusive territory for his student, Park Jung-soo, confronted Chung Ki-tae, rather assertively demanding that he leave the city. A bit of a turf war, you could say.
It sounds like it.
But instead of a direct conflict of force, which might have been expected given the circumstances, Chung chose a different path. He demonstrated a wide array of Hapkido techniques. This wasn't just a casual display, it was a powerful, practical showcase of Hapkido's efficacy. Particularly its sophisticated joint locks, intricate throws, and grappling-focused applications. These were precisely the areas where Taekwondo, especially in its burgeoning competitive form, might have been less developed or focused at the time. This compelling demonstration led to a truly remarkable and mutually beneficial agreement. Choi Hong-hee, recognizing the practical value, was permitted to publish these Hapkido techniques directly within the new edition of his seminal and widely influential book, Taekwondo, the Korean Art of Self-Defense.
Wow, incorporated right into the book.
Right into the book. In return, Choi Hong-hee publicly acknowledged Chung Ki-tae as a good Taekwondo man and granted him explicit permission to live and practice his martial art wherever he wished. So the conflict was resolved through sharing knowledge. This direct incorporation of Hapkido techniques, particularly those focusing on close quarters control and manipulation, suggests an early pragmatic recognition by a leading Taekwondo pioneer of the profound need for a broader range of self-defense elements within Taekwondo, elements that Hapkido, with its holistic and adaptable approach to close quarters combat, could readily provide. It unequivocally highlights a willingness at the highest levels of Taekwondo's early development to adapt, integrate, and evolve for greater real-world effectiveness.
That's truly a powerful and insightful moment in martial arts history. It really showcases a pragmatic, forward-thinking approach to enhancing combat effectiveness, clearly prioritizing practicality and comprehensive utility over maybe rigid adherence to a single, narrow style. And speaking of Hapkido, our sources delve into the meaning behind its name, which reveals quite a lot about its holistic nature. Hei-pi, meaning unite, representing the profound harmony of body, mind, and soul. Ki, meaning life energy, referring to the cultivation of inner body strength and vital force, and Do, meaning way, encompassing the spiritual path and the ethical teaching that guides the Hapkido practitioner or Hapkidoan.
A very philosophical underpinning.
Exactly. It's clearly a holistic system that extends far beyond mere physical techniques, focusing deeply on inner development, philosophical understanding, and a comprehensive approach to conflict management. This rich historical context of cross-pollination and integration profoundly illuminates why modern Taekwondo, especially in its more complete self-defense applications, might contain elements that go beyond just the striking and kicking for which it is most famous. It demonstrates a clear lineage of integration and continuous evolution to address the full, unpredictable spectrum of self-defense needs.
Taekwondo Defense, TKDD, a modern solution.
Okay, so this fascinating historical context about Hapkido's influence naturally brings us to a crucial modern development, one that directly addresses the real-world self-defense question we started with. Taekwondo defense, universally known as TKDD. Our sources repeatedly highlight TKDD as a realistic, modern, and specifically designed self-defense system. It strategically leverages the core strengths of Taekwondo techniques. Its explicit mission is to effectively fill the gap that largely emerged as Taekwondo increasingly became a sport, moving somewhat away from some of its more traditional and immediate practical self-defense roots. It's essentially a focused institutional effort to bring Taekwondo back to its full, comprehensive self-defense potential, making it truly street-ready.
Exactly. And what's particularly fascinating here is not just the existence of TKDD, but the deliberate intent, the clear vision, and the systematic approach of its founder. Grandmaster Kim Un-seop is recognized as the visionary driving force behind Taekwondo defense. He initiated its foundational development in Korea as early as 2013, and the rapid global spread of TKDD was notably and strategically accelerated through the extensive use of YouTube videos, which powerfully demonstrates the immense reach and transformative power of modern digital platforms in disseminating specialized martial arts knowledge and reaching a truly global audience, an audience hungry for effective reality-based self-defense methodologies. This modern approach to communication allowed TKDD to bypass many traditional hierarchical structures and quickly gain significant traction among practitioners worldwide who are actively seeking more practical, applicable, and effective self-defense training that transcended the limitations of purely sport-focused curricula.
Right. So TKDD isn't just some informal offshoot or a peripheral add-on. It's a direct, highly organized, and institutionally recognized response to a clearly identified need within the global Taekwondo community. And Grandmaster Kim Yun-seob's influence extends far beyond merely founding TKDD. He's not only the president of the World Taekwondo Defense Federation, an organization he established to formalize and promote this comprehensive system globally, but he also holds the incredibly influential position of technical advisor for self-defense at the World Taekwondo headquarters. That's the organization globally known as Kukiwon.
The main governing body, basically.
Exactly. And here's the truly monumental and perhaps most significant endorsement. The entire self-defense section in the new official Kukiwon textbook, often reverently referred to as the Bible of Taekwondo due to its foundational importance, is based directly and entirely on TKDD principles and techniques.
That's huge.
That is a colossal institutional endorsement, isn't it? It signals unequivocally that this realistic, reality-based self-defense approach is being fully integrated into the very core curriculum and foundational texts of global Taekwondo. It indicates a clear, decisive shift towards prioritizing and formalizing practical self-defense at the absolute highest levels of the art's governing body.
Yeah, it really does. And this brings us to a critical understanding of the institutional recognition and the robust formal structure of this reality-based approach to Taekwondo. TKDD is professionally organized and meticulously structured in Korea. It comes complete with established Dan grades, which are the black belt levels, and formal standardized trainer licenses. This means there's a clear, consistent, and standardized pathway for progression, instruction, and certification within the TKDD system, ensuring quality control and expertise. This robust and comprehensive system is now being systematically established across Europe as well. TKDD has been formalizing its comprehensive structure since 2022. This expansion ensures consistent quality and broad availability of training, making it accessible to a wider range of practitioners. It truly functions as an optimal complement to classical Taekwondo. It specifically and deliberately addresses the expressed desire of many practitioners and trainers for realistically applicable combat techniques that extend far beyond the inherent limitations of purely sport-focused training. The official TKDD rulebook itself is incredibly detailed. It specifies requirements for instructor and examiner licenses, outlines how official TKDD locations operate and maintain standards, and details the specifics of cup exams, which are the colored belt tests for students. This comprehensive framework demonstrates its profound commitment to high standards, safety, and wide applicability across various contexts.
It truly sounds like TKDD is meticulously designed to give Taekwondo practitioners the absolute best of both worlds. You get the incredible athleticism, profound discipline, and rich tradition of Taekwondo, combined with genuine, proven street readiness. Our sources even touch on the extensive nature of the TKDD rulebook, detailing everything from the rigorous requirements for instructor and examiner licenses to the specific operational guidelines for official TKDD locations and the precise specifics of cup exams. It's not merely a collection of techniques, it's a fully fleshed out, professionally structured, and comprehensively integrated curriculum specifically designed for practical, real-world self-defense training. And the testament to its effectiveness is pretty compelling, wouldn't you say?
Definitely.
It's not just for civilian martial artists, it's actively being implemented and trained by police forces and even military units in countries like South Korea and Mexico. This widespread adoption in high-stakes, real-world environments is perhaps the most powerful validation of its practical effectiveness and unwavering applicability.
The path forward, combining strengths for comprehensive self-defense.
Okay, so our deep dive has thoroughly shown that while Taekwondo alone, particularly in its sport-focused manifestations, might exhibit certain limitations for chaotic street self-defense scenarios, mainly due to its emphasis on kicks and rules-based competition. It also reveals incredible inherent strengths. These include unparalleled powerful techniques and a formidable mindset. Plus, there are dedicated strategic efforts to adapt and significantly expand its self-defense capabilities through innovative systems like TKDD. So considering all this, what does this rich, nuanced discussion mean for you, the listener, who is genuinely looking to gain effective, comprehensive self-defense skills? What's the takeaway?
Well, this naturally leads us to the most practical and important question for our listeners. Right. How can you best approach self-defense training if you are deeply interested in Taekwondo, or perhaps already a practitioner? Our sources strongly suggest that focusing solely on Taekwondo competition without augmenting it might leave significant, potentially dangerous gaps in your ability to handle the full spectrum of real-world confrontations. These often involve abrupt, close-range attacks, unexpected grappling exchanges, and direct punches to the head, all common elements that are often restricted or absent in competitive Taekwondo. The key, then, is not to abandon Taekwondo because its core strengths are immense, as we've discussed. Instead, it's about strategically integrating its powerful strikes and conditioning with a truly realistic and comprehensive approach to self-defense. This could mean supplementing your existing Taekwondo training with combatives. Those are systems exclusively specialized and laser-focused on practical self-defense, often stripping away traditional formalities for raw effectiveness. Or, as we saw with the proactive approach of SSE Karlsruhe, it could involve cross-training in complementary martial arts like judo, specifically to cover the crucial area of grappling and ground fighting. It's fundamentally about honestly assessing and strategically filling those specific weaknesses. Understanding that no single martial art in isolation is a perfect universal solution for every conceivable self-defense scenario. It just doesn't exist.
Exactly. It's about cultivating a truly well-rounded, adaptable, and versatile skill set, rather than merely excelling at one specific aspect of combat that might only be effective under ideal controlled conditions. And critically, the emphasis isn't just on acquiring physical techniques. That's only part of the picture. Our sources underscore the vital, often overlooked aspects like active danger prevention, proactive de-escalation techniques, confident self-assertion, and a thorough understanding of the legal framework surrounding self-defense, what you can and can't legally do.
Very important.
Crucial. It's about cultivating a confident and aware demeanor, as that alone can effectively deter many potential threats before a physical confrontation even begins. Predators often look for easy targets, right?
That's right.
This holistic approach profoundly stresses that effective self-defense commences long before a punch is ever thrown. It involves a heightened awareness of your surroundings, the ability to project confidence and assertiveness, and if absolutely necessary, the wisdom and tactical skill to remove yourself safely from a dangerous situation. These are mental and situational skills that are just as, if not more, important than any purely physical technique.
Ultimately, what's truly fascinating and empowering here is that the journey to truly effective self-defense, regardless of whether you begin with Taekwondo or any other martial art, is inherently about continuous learning, relentless adaptation, and a willingness to evolve. It's not a static discipline, but a dynamic, ever-evolving field. You can always learn more. It's about combining the powerful strikes and kicks Taekwondo is justly famous for, with essential close-range techniques, acute situational awareness, and robust mental fortitude absolutely needed for real-world, unpredictable scenarios where the rules are absent. The compelling historical development of TKDD, spearheaded by the visionary Grandmaster Kim Un-Seob, and the undeniable past influence of Hapkido, clearly illustrate that Taekwondo has always been in a state of evolution, willingly integrating new elements and adapting to meet these diverse and demanding requirements. The most potent form of self-defense ultimately lies in a flexible mindset that embraces diverse training, recognizing that the street has no rules, no weight classes, and certainly no guarantees. Outro.
What an incredible deep dive we've had today. Really fascinating stuff. We've peeled back the intricate layers on Taekwondo as a system for self-defense, acknowledging its powerful athleticism and inherent strengths, while also thoroughly exploring the crucial need for realistic, holistic training that truly prepares you for any scenario the real world might throw at you. It's abundantly clear that while Taekwondo offers an exceptional foundational skill set, supplementing it with specific reality-based self-defense methods can profoundly empower you to face the unpredictable challenges of the real world with confidence and capability.
And it leaves us with this provocative thought, perhaps. In an increasingly complex and unpredictable world, is the most effective self-defense less about the singular prowess of a specific martial art, and far more about cultivating a flexible, informed approach that skillfully blends diverse techniques, acute situational awareness, and an unwavering mental preparedness for the raw realities of unpredictable real-world scenarios. Something to think about.
definitely something to think about. Thank you for listening. We hope you enjoyed today's topic and gained valuable insights. For more exciting Taekwondo content, don't forget to subscribe to our channel. It's absolutely worth it. Your TKD coach Cease H. Sezi podcast team. And remember, this deep dive was produced exclusively for the TKD Coach Cease YouTube channel.